month is Pride Month. June is Pride Month, and last year we did erotic horror, and we talked about some of the changes that we saw over the course of our movie watching lives. So this week we wanted to cover some more movies. We kind of wanted to do different things from last year. I think the three of us are in an interesting age group to where when we were young and movies first started, or when we first see movies, a lot of the gay characters were homosexuality was out there, I know, and they were kind of like jokes. And then over the course of or at least over my lifetime, it became like this, after school special to where it became like really serious to where then there was like a token gay character in pretty much everything you watched to where now things are a little more like, okay, this is just a gay character and that's it. Like it's not that big of a deal anymore. So in the course of the past, 4 decades, there's been a lot of changes in that. So we want to talk about some of the LGBTQ movies that we've seen over our lifetime. So last year, I don't think we touched on movies about activism. The one that I think of the most, because there's so many of them, are about the politician Harvey Milk.
Yeah, that's what came to my mind first too. Yeah.
The one with Sean Penn, that one I think is really, really good. Sean Penn, for as odd as he can be, is a really good actor. And that one definitely is worth your time. It's a really good movie. He's a good actor. It's an interesting story too. Very sad what ends up happening, but it's kind of a picture of what the country was like at that time and how we can still improve now, honestly, even though it's set a ways back. What movies did you guys think about?
Yeah, Milk was 100% the thing that came to mind for me.
Yeah, like that's the one that usually pops up, especially when you. I guess when you're trying to like bring somebody into activism and what I'm just again to echo everything you just said, Pat. But it's a movie that where it's all the things that we're seeing right now could still be improved on.
Yeah, and honestly, there was two for sure. Well, and Milk is just I'm not a huge Sean Penn fan, but he is super great in that movie. And it's definitely a story that needs to be told. And the other one that I would say came out in 1999, Boys Don't Cry, which is like kind of a brutal story about I mean, unbelievably, a transgender person who basically tried to fit in their community and in doing so got murdered for it. And it is gut-wrenching, a completely gut-wrenching thing. And yeah, very powerful, very good performances by everybody involved. I think it may have won an Academy Award or somebody involved did, but very good movie.
Yeah, that one, that's actually before Milk. That's the first one I thought of. And then because of the things that you mentioned about how brutal it was, I was like, oh, I kind of don't want to go in that direction. But you're right. That's absolute. No, that's
hey, we're living in a world of brutality these days.
We do. No, that might have been why that was the first one I thought of, actually.
Yeah.
So what are some overlooked LGBTQ movies? The one that I thought of, and I know that Danny's never seen it because of a comment he made last week. Danny mentioned that he had never heard of voguing before. So I'm assuming, Danny, that you've never seen Paris is Burning.
No, I've never seen it. Yeah.
That documentary very heavily focuses on vogue. It's also the first time I ever, and this came out in '95, which goes to show how far behind or far ahead the LGBT community is. But that's the first time I ever heard the term throwing shade, was way back when. Yeah, so
Damn, I thought that was a new thing. Ooh, boy.
It was, well, I started hearing it like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, wow, that is so weird, because I remember hearing that like way back when I was a kid. I mean, no one ever said it. I just heard it in a documentary. But but Paris is Burning, I think, is like very much overlooked because it's about the drag culture in New York. And it's about the shows that they put together and what they do to go through it, and just how competitive it is. And it's very much it's revolutionary. People throw that word around a lot, and it's a trend center. But I don't think you hear so much about it now because of RuPaul and all the various drag reality shows have taken the spotlight away from Paris is Burning, which in 1995 there was just nothing like that out there at all. But on top of that, it's really, I would say that, and this is nothing to do with LGBTQ, but that and Hoop Dreams, because they both came out like back-to-back years, are two very
so good.
Hoop Dreams is without a doubt, like Hoop Dreams, tangent, like I've said this before. Hoop Dreams is another reason that Forrest Gump was not the best movie that year. Forrest Gump was like the 5th best movie that year. Just saying. But yeah, like Paris is Burning is criminally overlooked. Like I believe it's on Netflix. It was at a time, I know that for sure. But if you haven't seen it, I mean, and if you think what RuPaul is doing is awesome, then you will love Paris is Burning.
Well, I think like what RuPaul is doing is just bringing her culture, I guess the whole culture to awareness, and maybe, and that's one of the things that I like about that, like about RuPaul. And we've talked about like fucking To Wong Fu, because that was essentially like the first times that this whole like drag culture, at least to me, drag culture is like coming out. I forgot there was also one where Robert De Niro played a drag queen too, and I can't even remember it, but he was like, I think like a cop drag queen.
I think that's just how he made money in like 1988 to 92.
Was it Robert De Niro or Al Pacino in Serpico? Oh wait, Cruisin'. I get those confused.
But no, those are some of the things that, and I feel like I think there's more awareness for drag, for voguing, because I think this year it's the second time I've heard it. Like there was another competition show that I heard it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. Why have I heard about this? But yeah, definitely, I'm gonna like check out Paris is Burning.
I've been voguing daily just since we brought it up, just because I feel like
I'm gonna start doing it too, because I need to serve some looks here.
I never stopped doing it once I learned about it.
Since 1987.
I think one of the overlooked films for me is In and Out, or In and Out. Now I can't even remember the movie title.
The Burger.
But it starts. No, it's a movie starring Kevin Kline. He doesn't know that he's out, or how he helped out a gay youth, and he struggles with him being gay. And I feel like it takes it's a comedic film, but it takes itself like seriously in a way that there's a lot of people that struggle with it, like struggle about coming out, and sometimes they're not sure if they are, or how to even deal with it. And I feel this movie, yes, it's comedic, but it dealt with coming out, especially in a time where everything is like unsure, and like in their mid 90s, but I really do. I think that is a good overlooked film.
Also, and kind of with that kind of like, well, and this doesn't really, I wouldn't say this is a bona fide queer movie in any way, really, other than they gave a really cool character. They made a really cool character gay, and they made him gay without being stereotypically like flamboyant, and that the whole like just cookie cutter gay character that you get so often is Rock and Rolla, Handsome Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Hardy. Guy Ritchie, man, I fucking love Guy Ritchie, and it's a kick-ass movie. It's a kick-ass character, and you don't ever hear about it mentioned in any of this stuff as like kind of being a little bit progressive in making a character that way. So yeah, I would say, I mean, it's a cool movie. It's a crime drama, crime thriller, but it doesn't play gay stereotypes as as ridiculous as you usually see in like major blockbuster kind of movies.
Right.
Another one that surprising to me. Well, I guess it's because it's so art house, but Blue is the Warmest Color. That one is it's pretty long. It's like a 3-hour French movie, but it's about two women who fall in love, and it really controversial because of how graphic it is. Years after the fact, it came out that the working conditions the director was pretty rough on the female leads, and I believe both of them, I know at least one of them has spoken out against how poorly he treated them. And it won a lot of awards too. I want to say it won awards at the Cannes Film Festival. But surprisingly, it was something that at the time I heard a lot about, and then I hear about when new controversies come. It's a very good movie, though. And I'm surprised that more people haven't seen it. But based on a graphic novel and 3 hours, and it can be pretty depressing. So that might be why people don't really care for it. Which kind of leads into what I want to talk about next. So, what movies do you think are like a celebration of the LGBT culture? Because not every movie with gay characters necessarily celebrates that lifestyle. And I don't mean celebrates like Broken Hearts Club like all, the Broken Heart Club are gay
Right.
men, but it's not about celebrating the culture. It's a love story. It's a rom com. It's a straight
Right.
up rom com.
Right.
But what movies do you think are great celebrations of the LGBTQ community?
My favorite one, and I'm gonna steal it from you, Danny, because you brought it up last year. But 100% Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was something that I saw at a young age that kind of just, I don't know, it introduced my mind into men who like to dress like women and be with men. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a pretty profound idea when you don't know anything about the world. And yeah, I've always been really happy and proud of how Rocky Horror Pictures was unadulteratedly uncensored in that, and I love that.
And sticking with musicals, and I don't like musicals at all. One of my favorite movies is a musical, is Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Oh yeah, I love
And
Hedwig.
that's absolutely a celebration of it. It's a story, and it takes them a long time. It's about the duality of man, and he quotes who is it, Plato or Aristotle, some Greek philosopher. He's constantly quoting throughout and it's really about, well, I guess you can take it how you want, but I've always taken it as someone trying to find themselves. So initially he puts on the persona of Hedwig, because that's the only way he feels comfortable. And then by the end of the movie, the everything that he goes through, the rise and fall of his musical career, he I forget the name of the character of his actual name, but he's able just to be himself, and the whole movie is just about pride. No pun intended, but it's very much about finding pride in oneself and just being yourself and being out there. Very good movie, very very good movie. What about you, Danny?
I guess because I've been really seeing a lot of like reality TV lately. One that I feel like that celebrates the LGBTQ and community is We're Here, and it's on HBO. It's I think like 6 or 7 episodes, but it shows how to just live your fucking best life, and it shows how different views of especially of a drag queen to like a straight man or a cis man or whatever. It resonates with a lot of people of how they're trying to learn, and that is one thing that I think that we're learning throughout these last couple of weeks, is that we're trying to learn and how to better ourselves. And I think what we're here is doing right now, or what it did, because the show's done for this season. I think it's doing that. It's making sure that we understand where people are coming from, what are their fears when they're in a small town that they possibly can't maybe come out, and doing this drag show is showing them that confidence. And I feel that is a good way to show how proud you are of who you are. And I think We're Here is a really good show for that.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing about Pride Month, to be honest with you, is it's so much more encompassing than your sexuality. It really is about being proud of who you are and what you are internally, and it's super cool.
Absolutely, and along those lines, and keeping it recent, like Danny, on Netflix, they just came out with the documentary Circus of Books, and I had talked about it on there. It's about the older Jewish couple who they buy a bookstore, they turn it into they start selling Hustler magazine, and then it becomes a gay adult bookstore, and then becomes a gay studio. They make gay pornos there, but it's very much about a celebration of that culture. And over the course of, man, they opened it in the 60s and they just closed it last year. So over the course of a number of decades, they learn a lot about the culture. One of their sons, he ends up coming out. Oh, it's a very, it sounds very serious, and I guess in a way that it is, but it's a very fun documentary. It's a very cool outlook at how things have changed over the past few decades, but it's through the eyes of a gay adult bookstore shop owner. So it's really cool. It's definitely worth watching. What suggestions would you guys have from the LGBTQ community? What are the best queer films out there?
Ooh, I'm gonna take it way back. I'm gonna take you to the Wayback Machine. So mostly because I feel like it really deserves some, and he deserves some credit for being a way ahead of his time. Glenn or Glenda, Edward D. Wood Jr. There is a fantastic Tim Burton movie starring Johnny Depp about this man. This guy, again, in 1953, made a movie called Glenn or Glenda. And it's because he was I guess at the time they termed a cross-dresser. a man who liked to dress in women's clothing. I think if you never heard of the guy, you didn't know anything about it. They're terrible movies. He's famous for making virtually the worst movies ever made. So don't expect a lot. But what a progressive thing to do, and what it took some balls. It took some balls to make that in 1953 and to lie to a bunch of people to get that made. So props to Mr. Edward D. Wood Jr.
Danny, what do you have?
I have the Birdcage, and I feel like everybody watches this movie either way, but I feel like it is it's a couple that's trying to come out to be normal, but they know they can't be, and that's a thing that the whole thing is like, just be yourself. Again, it's just that. And I feel like that's what this whole thing, this whole Pride Month, at least to me, and I'm going to be completely probably wrong, but yeah, just be yourself. Like, just be loud and proud. And I think that's what the Birdcage has taught me over and over again.
I don't know how many times I've seen the Birdcage, but it's never not funny. It's a very, very good pick and a very.
How could
good
it
movie.
not be funny with all those fucking people in it, man?
I know.
Geniuses.
I would suggest The Favorite. It's not your traditional queer. It has very strong themes in it. It's very, very good, and I know I've talked about that one a lot. We talked about this last year, but I'm a huge fan of Heavenly Creatures. It's such an amazing movie. Kate Winslet, I think it might be her first movie ever, directed by Peter Jackson. But it's not the type of movie that you would expect to see from him. It's not some over-the-top gory horror movie.
There's no Muppets?
It's not no, and it's not set on Middle Earth. It's very grounded, based on a true story. It's about two young girls who end up killing quite a number of people. But it's a love story. It is a straight-up love story. I mean, and it's cool in the essence that in the way that a lot of love stories, they deal with manipulation and betrayal. But underneath all of that, there's still this strong bond of love that's there, and it's such a good movie. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen that movie, and every single time I get the feels watching it. But excellent movie. Again, it's streaming on Netflix or Hulu. It's somewhere out there. It's definitely worth seeing, and like most of the other movies that we've mentioned on here, all of the other movies that we've mentioned on here, if you haven't seen it yet, then definitely see it. This I'm a little bit biased on because I'm a huge fan of his writing, his plays, because he's actually a pretty shitty writer, but he writes some really good plays. Anything about Oscar Wilde, and any of his adaptations, like Importance of Being Earnest, or if it's something about his life, or even that weird comic, Cerebus, there's like issues devoted to his last days. Oscar Wilde's a super interesting character, and anything that's ever done about him or his works, they're passion projects always. So people the directors put their most into it, the actors put their most into it, and the writing is so witty. He's one of the wittiest. He's like up there with Groucho Marx in just a different era. Always fun, and again, there's a sense of like frivolity to it, and you can watch it and kind of. Oh, part of Pride of this month and part of celebrating things is to kind of sometimes take you away from the shittiness of our regular world and just enjoy what we have. And Oscar Wilde and his works are really good at that. And the adaptations about his life and his works are